All right, I should be in. You should be in.
Cheers.
Cheers.
What a day. You know, I think people come to these videos to see just two normal dudes hanging out, relaxing, and we want you to join in with us. So get a pipe, get a cigar, get a beer or whatever beverage you'd like, sit down and have a chat with the Schlender brothers.
Yes, welcome to another episode of Decadent. I've decided to call these things. I think it is apropos.
I like Up in Smoke. Smoke Tank.
Smoke tank.
It's always going to be the same joke.
You know what the only thing I forgot about, Dylan?
Yes.
Is the umbrella away. I can't see your face.
Oh, okay. Well, you're probably better off.
Better off.
It's bad enough everyone watching at home has to see my face.
That's fair. All right, so we're here for another episode of a Decadent episode in which we discuss something Dylan's been trying to get me to get invested in for quite some time. And
Very true.
it wasn't until recently that I finally just, decided to give it a shot. And that would be the animated children's show Bluey.
Yes. Yes, finally.
So a little backstory for me, I work in special education, so if the kids have a little downtime, there's a lot of times like, can we watch Bluey? Can we watch Bluey? And I'm usually like, we don't have time for Bluey. Turns out, yeah, we do. Mm-hmm. We do. So over the course of this summer school, one of the girls I work with, she very much loves Bluey, and I'm like, all right, let's put it on, let's check it out. I had a passing familiarity with it because, everybody talks about it, but I'd never really sat down to watch it myself. Mm-hmm. Well, those jokes about grown-ups watching Bluey more than the kids, that was 100% what happened.
Yeah, it happens to everyone.
Next thing I knew, I'm just sitting there watching it. I think it is a delightful show. I'm not as far into it as some people. I'm just near the end of season 1.
Oh, and it only gets better.
Yeah, there's so many episodes, so it's not like...
But, it's my good friend Dwight Hurst said, it's a good economy of storytelling because they cram so much into every episode. For the 3 people out there who don't know what Bluey is...
Oh, yeah, I probably should start with that.
It's an animated series from Australia that follows a family of dogs. They're called the Gila family.
Yep, the Gilas.
And they're a mom, a dad, and 2 daughters. And the titular Bluey is the eldest daughter, her little sister Bingo, the mother is Chili, the father is Bandit. And about 7 to 9 minutes, 10 minutes, there's one long special that we'll talk about later. You get a nice digestible story that usually has some kind of takeaway, some kind of lesson, or it's just really good at making you kind of feel something, right? It's not necessarily about... oh, my kid's going to learn a lesson from this one. Sometimes it's just about feeling good at the end of these episodes. It kind of reminds you what art is really supposed to be about,
Interesting.
Because it's not a disturbing show. It's not a graphic show. They don't make these emotional appeals, though some episodes will make you emotional depending on your state, of course.
Right.
But I really think at the end of the day, it doesn't lose sight of the fact that it is very much... it's not a kid's show, it's a family show. So anyone who's ever had a family or would like a family, or if you've had kids, you work with kids like Derek. For my background with it, I have 2 children who are right at that prime age where Bluey was going to be the big thing. Yeah. And obviously we just cruised through watching all of it on Disney Plus, and now we have it in our collection. And it's definitely one we constantly go back to, especially if my son gets to pick. He'll pick Bluey every day of the week. So that's what Bluey is. It's an animated short show, very digestible, main cast, huge cast of characters, but the main family is just that core 4.
Pretty large cast, and they use them pretty well.
Yeah.
Like you're never...
and consistent. Another nice thing about Bluey, I guess, we could just start diving right into talking about it, I suppose.
Yeah.
It's very consistent with how the characters are portrayed, how they act, how they do things, and if they're not, they usually call themselves out. There's one great episode where Bandit, again, the father, he's trying to explain to Bluey and Bingo why they have to listen to him. And he references an older episode. He goes, don't you remember? We already went over this when your imaginary friend beat me up. And both of the girls go, no. And he goes, oh, that's disappointing. Which if you're a parent out there, it's like... it's never just the one lesson, one time, exactly. Or in your career, it's never like it's always teaching and relearning these things.
That's true. I think probably the best thing about it is just how excellent the dialogue is. The consistency of characters is really good too, especially when you do like a short thing. It'd be really easy for the characters to be like, I need them to do this episode, so it fits like a certain motif or like fits like a theme. But they are very consistent. My favorite part, of course, is every time like the parents have like parent talk off to the side, but like right in front of the kids, and the kids don't pick up on it, and it's just like so true. Like there's so many good jokes about that. Like there's this one called like Work, where the kids want to play Work, and the dad's like, oh, work, and then he's just like, oh, work. Like, and when he like recognizes the game the kids want to play, and he's like, oh, I don't want to do this, but he does. And there are a lot. It is like very good morality stories. I wonder how much kids are going to pick up on some of this, like of a certain age, because I think some of the lessons, though excellent and well told, I'm not just sure how much kids pay attention to that kind of storytelling anymore.
But you know what the kids are picking up, and so that's a very good point. Is like how much is the kids picking up? How much are the parents picking up?
Parents pick up a lot. I guarantee
do.
Grown-ups take a lot away.
But what
it.
the kids are picking up from it is that expressing yourself like through playing games, figuring stuff out through games, having a relationship with your mom and dad where you can talk to them about things. I think that's what the kids are picking up. So they might not be picking up a more granular lesson of like, oh, never give up, but they are picking up the fact like, if I'm playing games with my parents or people I trust,
right.
then, I can talk to them, I can open up, and Bandit, most of the parental interaction does come through Bandit, not through Chili, though Chili has plenty of good episodes. And a lot of it is Bandit letting the girls or the other kids figure this stuff out on their own.
That's true. And yeah, it is pretty Bandit heavy when it comes to a lot of the stuff, which I think is important, especially, show like a supporting father, like doing all these things for his kids, I think is pretty nice. And it's not something we see a lot, especially in like modern day shows and things like that. There's always some kind of negative or buffoonery concerning the father. And there are times where like Bandit will do something very silly for his kids, and then like another dad will like walk by and he'll like, and like the mom's always like, oh, what's wrong, Dad? All of a sudden, like there's one where they're playing in the park and he's making these whale noises and he's getting real into it, and he sees another dad and all of a sudden he stops, and the mom's like, well, maybe the whale is just nervous.
Yeah, exactly.
Stuff like that. And so there are lots of good moments where like the parents kind of like rib each other and stuff. And
and I'm not here to disparage anything about Bluey, but there are a handful of episodes, I really can only think of one, where Bandit, I think, does take the play too far and probably does set a bad example for the kids. It's an episode where they go shopping and he pretends to be an ill-behaved child, and I don't really like that one because the kids are bossing Bandit around and telling him what to do, so it's a weird power dynamic in that episode. But like I said, I'm not here, like that's the only bad thing I'm going to say about Bluey the rest of the night as far as I'm concerned.
It's especially because I'm still pretty early on. There are times where I'm like, it's fine that you're letting the kids kind of like explore, and like it does feel like the line is awfully soft on some of the things. Like I was finally glad to see an episode where like Bandit's like, I gotta go to work, and the kid's like, oh, you can't go to work, and he comes back and he keeps playing with them, and I'm like, you have to go to work. This is not a realistic, responsible depiction of being a parent if you're ignoring the fact you have to go to work. So he does like a quick game with the kids, and he's like, I gotta go, and they're like, no, do it again, and he does another quick game, and I'm like, he's got to leave. If they end this episode with him being like, it's okay, I'll just be late, it's terrible. But he ends up going to work, and he explains to Bluey that while he's at work, Bluey has to figure out other fun games for them to play for when he comes home.
There's another episode, and so that is kind of funny. So sometimes in season 1 you do see that, and I think those lessons in a way get rectified in a few subsequent episodes. Like you probably haven't seen it yet. There's one called Curry Swap, where Bluey and Bandit are bringing curry to their neighbors. They're going to swap curries. I guess that's something they do in Australia. The show's very Australian.
It is.
So, and it's just the done thing.
It's the done thing.
So anyway, and the whole point of Bandit taking Bluey on this adventure is he's going to tell her that he has to leave for a couple months for work. Bandit's an archaeologist for some reason, because dogs dig up bones.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah, so... And that's kind of, and so that, or is it Bingo he takes on the adventure? Oh, I'm terrible for remembering, but...
It doesn't matter, one of the kids.
He takes one of the kids on the adventure, and it is just to tell her that, you know, I am going to be gone this long and you're going to have to like figure out how to do things without me and everything. But you know, the kids understand. I think that's one of the big takeaways from a lot of the Bluey episodes is you can talk to your kids honestly and not overwhelm them.
Yeah.
At the same time, it's about meeting them where they're at, and one of the best ways to do that would be through like playing, and honestly, just such a big thing that Bandit does with them is just be present.
That's true.
You know,
Yeah.
and it is funny though, because you might be thinking like, oh, how can I ever compete with Bandit and Chili? But you know, you do get to see them. You know, like Bandit really just wants to be watching sports and not playing with the kids. Or he
Yes.
wants to be on his phone, you know. So like you do see some of those more human, for lack of a better term, since they're dogs, but you know,
but it's
you do
easy.
see those more human and relatable
Right.
moments. Like I don't think the show's putting the onus on you, like you have to be on all the time like Bandit is.
Right.
You know, the show's very conscious of the fact that you're watching a sliver
Right.
of the day. You know, there's one episode that starts where they're in the car and they're going to be dropping the kids off at Bandit's mother's. And it's like, all right, when you get to, all right, kids, you're going to grandma's. And the kids go, yay, TV. And they go, no, you've been watching TV all morning. Now, it's not like The Sopranos. You don't see the characters watching TV all day, but they do allude to the fact that, like, sometimes they do normal things. Like, you do have those days where the kids are just watching TV all day.
They had that one where, I can't remember, but it's the one where Bingo has to bring home the puppet from school and document everything they do. And the mom's just taking pictures of them and they're just on their iPads or on their phones or like looking at screens. And so she's like, here's what your book looks like. And very depressed. Bingo's very depressed about that. So they redo like a whole bunch of outside activities and they bring it back in and it looks like, they had a really good time with the puppet. I actually really enjoyed that episode because at the end of it, Bingo's like, I hope you had a good time at my house and one day maybe you'd like to come back. And the other kid holding the puppet makes the puppet hug her. And I was like, this is the best ending. I was like, kids, are you watching them? They're not watching it.
I know. Bingo is such a great and well-realized character for how young she is. So I think Bluey is 6, maybe turned 7 in the show, or 5 and turned 6.
I think 6.
Yeah, and Bingo is like 3 to 4.
It's 4. I think they're 2 years apart.
And it is great. And there's so many. We could just sit here talking about all the great episodes. And,
there are too many. There's like
and the human
how many
touches.
others? Like this is like the One Piece of children's shows. There's just never ending. But I do enjoy it, and I enjoy like a lot of the messaging. Like I said, I do think it's probably more so for parents, and I'm not sure how much kids will take away from it. I think there are some important things that kids should take away from it, but unless you actually sit down and like explain like the lesson to the kids afterwards, I'm not sure how much kids take away from it.
Yeah.
Like the bicycle one where like Bluey's like, why can't I be good at this instantly? I give up. And so she goes to sit on the bench with Bandit, and he's like, well, let's take a look. And there's like a bunch of other kids trying to do things at the park, and they eventually overcome it and stuff like that. And then Bluey's like, oh, I will keep going until I succeed. Stuff like that. It's like, I wonder how many kids are going to look at that and be like, you're right, I shouldn't give up. Or they'll just be like, that was a silly episode. Things like that. There's a lot of stuff for parents to take away.
There is a lot of stuff. And so, actually, I want to talk about that thing from the perspective as a parent. When I meet other parents out in the wild, Bluey is like the lingua franca, like we can just all talk about Bluey and how great it is, how much our kids love it, stuff that we've learned from it as parents, it's like when I took the children to see the Bluey live stage show, it's a bunch of like millennial dads there like me and everything, some older, some younger, some grandparents and all that.
Yeah, all the fun.
And you have dads wearing shirts that say like Bandit's my hero and stuff like that, and it's just like, in a way, Bandit gave dads this permission, is like, you can be fun, you can play the games, you can be on with the kids. Right. But at the same time, you don't want to lose sight of some of that moralizing, of some of those lessons, and so those are always the weakest episodes of Bluey, where it seems like Bandit kind of loses sight of that, but 9 times out of 10 he usually reins it in, or Chili reins it in to really drive the lesson home.
Right. Well, it is kind of interesting because it does kind of feel like out of time, like from a different time, because you don't really see a lot of like family-centric shows with like I said, like strong, encouraging role models. Like even shows I like Modern Family. the fathers are kind of the doofs, you know, like they're the goofballs, you know, it's like, and so that can be fun, but it's like to see like Bandit be like the goofball, but still like,
still kind of grounded.
Still grounded in
Yeah.
it, and it's not feel so sitcom TV-ish, right? It feels like it came from a place of knowledge and like trying, like you said, ground it and make it realistic.
The show, so one of the reasons I think we see it is more centered around Bandit. The show was created by Joe Brum, again in Australia, and he actually has 2 daughters. You know, and I think he is on record saying like, "Oh, I'm not Bandit." You know,
yeah, sure, buddy.
You know, it's like Darius Rucker's not Hootie and Hootie and the Blowfish. You know, it's like, come on, right? So, I think he has a clearness of vision of what it means to be a father,
Right.
and I do think it does make Bandit a little more aspirational, like we were saying, but not unattainable, and that's what's kind of refreshing about that show. I mean, there's a great joke they make when Bandit's trying to build like a deck swing, and he's looking at the instructions, and Chili points to the instructions, which are being done by another dog, and she goes, "Well, if you follow the instructions," he's like, "I'm not taking advice from a cartoon dog." You know, so that they're very, I think they're very aware of the impact they're having on families all over the world. You know, not just in Australia and America. You know, but this is very much a global phenomenon. You know,
it is. It is. I'm glad I finally sat down to start watching it. I've been enjoying it quite a bit, like I said.
Well, you know, you're not the only one, too. A good friend of the show and your co-host on Trailer Trash, Maynard Bangs, he loves Bluey.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I mean, if you get anyone to watch...
That's true.
I mean, you get anyone to watch it, like I said, whether they have kids or don't have kids, you know, I think it's just because the family dynamic is it's so real.
Right. And nobody nobody's like truly the butt of jokes or the butt of like I don't know. There's just like the focal point isn't in on like, oh, this one character's thing is like goofballness. You know, it's like there's nothing. Like there's really like not negative things to say. Like there's everything is kind of done in a positive, well-intentioned manner, and it's wholesome and fun to see.
And now to go in a bit deeper, one of the things I just appreciate from a storytelling point of view is they're very aware of their continuity. And there's just so many good little examples of this. I want to highlight one in particular, because right now the future of Bluey's kind of nebulous. As of this recording, there was their special, The Sign, was out, which was a mega episode at like a whopping 20 minutes, right? But there was another episode after that, and now there's some shorts that are coming out, and there's a lot of conflicting rumors about whether or not it's going to come back, or is it going to come back, but they're going to age them up, you know? So that's another reason I thought it would be good to do this video now, is just because, you know, Bluey could be done. You know, it very well could be. Or at least Bluey as we know it almost certainly is done.
It is certainly done as we know.
Exactly.
If those contracts are done that gave them that level of freedom and control for 3 seasons, which is usually the case, and having Disney involved, I am sorry, but Disney is the kiss of death for everything.
I gotta say,
having their name and money attached to it now, kiss of death.
Yeah, I gotta say, I am a little worried about Disney getting its poisonous claws into.
And we're not being hyperbolic. They've ruined literally every franchise. Dude, Star Wars, they've ruined. Marvel, I mean, God, they ruined Marvel. Just their own animated specials, their own in-house things, everything Pixar they've done. I mean, that Inside Out 2 was described as a straight-to-VHS/DVD quality sequel, and it made all that money. Just goes to show that like the market is so hungry for something that doesn't feel like an agenda-driven Disney preaching to you, moralizing, you're the problem. I mean, take a look at the press releases for everything they put out that fails. It's never their fault. It's always someone else's fault. So I'm curious to see if Disney does get their claws into Bluey.
That's interesting, because so much media is didactic nowadays, right? It's so much finger pointing at that end, whereas Bluey, while it does have lessons to impart, it's not pointing the finger. It's more like a motivational speaker.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's not someone like blaming you. It's not, when you watch Bluey, you never think, oh God, I'm a bad father, or this is a real problem, or anything like that. It's kind of it's an encouraging and uplifting show, and there's not a lot of those. So nowadays,
if Disney does like start like having more creative control over it, we've seen what they do when they get creative control. They tank everything. They don't understand the fan base that made it popular.
I mean, can you just cut in the Cartman saying, make her lame and gay?
Yeah, dude, seriously. I mean, it's like, oh my God. And they just don't learn their lessons. They just don't learn their lessons. I mean, of course, Disney's monolithic and it's huge, and it takes forever for a ship that size to course correct. So I have a little bit of patience for them because these projects, if they started them 3 years ago and they come out today, culture's not the same, society's not the same, people's interests aren't the same. Well, people's interests were never really up to what they said. Which is why everything has such diminishing returns for Disney. But if they get their claws into Bluey, I would be curious to see when they ruin it, because if they get it, they will ruin it. It's inevitable.
Yeah.
That's disappointing.
How they will spin it to make it seem like it's the fans' fault. Like, how is it going to be everyday people and their family's fault? Because Disney doesn't like you. They don't like your family, especially if you're a family person. They hate family. Like, they don't even put out, like, family-centric things anymore.
It's very telling that Bluey is the #1 streamed thing, if not in the world, at least on Disney thing. I think for a while it was the #1 streamed show in the world.
Oh, I can believe it.
That doesn't surprise me. Yeah, but, so anyway, so enough of the quasi-politicking for a moment and going back to some of the stuff that makes Bluey special. It is the long memory it has. And so there's an episode where there's a great character named Winton, and he's a bulldog. And he is playing with Bluey, and they're in a helicopter, and this is where you find out that Winton, his family is divorced, because he says, wants Bluey, he's like, drop me off at my dad's, and she's like, where's your dad live? Well, he doesn't live with my mom anymore. His house has a pool. Make sure you drop me off in the deep end. And so it's kind of like just a throwaway joke for that helicopter episode. And then you go all the way to the sign, and Winton's father has been dating the terrier's mother in the background of a few episodes.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And he's moving, and the people that were originally going to buy Bluey's house, the reason, like, they were reluctant, but they ultimately bought it, but they said, I wish I had a pool. Then they see Winton's dad's house for sale, and it has a pool. And that's all when I was watching the sign, it was like, all I could just hear in Winton's head, in my head, go, he has a pool, and so he's selling it to move in with the terriers, and there it is. And I was just like, man, little stuff like that.
That's great.
When you have that attention to detail, and again, you're talking from episodes that are like 6 to 9 minutes. And
they're about 9 minutes.
It's like there's
hundreds of them.
They're so good.
Hundreds.
They're so good. And like one of the things too that's kind of funny is like all the characters are so bought in to like the kids playing. So like their neighbor, Lucky's dad. I don't even know what Lucky's dad's real name is.
I think it's just called Lucky's dad.
They just call it Lucky's dad. He full sends every time the kids are playing a game. They're like, Lucky's dad, stop him. And he like runs and tries to tackle the guy and stuff,
They're always, who's their neighbor? Wendy, who sees like all their inappropriate jokes, like every single joke they do.
Oh yeah.
Like there was like Bluey did one where she was telling Bandit he's got to clean the window with his butt, so he presses his butt up against the window, and the neighbor looks over, and is like, oh my word.
Yeah, and there's another one where Bluey's copying him.
Yes, and he's smacking his butt.
I just love smacking my butt, and he just starts smacking. She's walking by, and Bluey's not doing it. And he's like,
Bluey
oh,
just
come
like,
on. Yeah, I don't know.
That was the budgie one.
Oh,
where the budgie dies.
Yeah. See, that's another one too. It's like how do kids deal with loss? Actually, and like going back to the sign, one of the things that's interesting about that, because the conceit for the sign is that the healers are moving.
Right.
So the sign is the for sale sign on their property. And Bingo is just absolutely sanguine about the whole thing, very fine with it. It's like, oh yeah, we're moving. Doesn't
know what it means.
Yeah, it doesn't know what it means. So then at the end of the episode, the moving truck is showing up and they're taking her desk away. She goes, what's going on? And she's like, Bingo, we're moving. And she goes, I know we're moving, but I thought we were still going to live here. Something to that effect. I'm paraphrasing, of course.
Oh man, but they don't end up moving, do they?
No, they don't. Spoilers.
Yeah, that's kind of a cop-out. I think moving is such a natural part of most kids' lives. I think that could have been a pretty powerful moment. I haven't seen it, but I heard some of the discourse on the internet, and I just think it would have been a powerful moment to like discuss, like, hey, moving is just something that happens, especially like as a family grows and their needs change and things like that, and based on work.
Well, and that was the other thing too. They're moving so Bandit can have a better working position too. So.
It's a very normal thing.
Exactly. And Chili works as well. She's like a TSA agent because, dogs sniff out drugs,
That's wonderful, actually. Quite happy with that.
I know.
Quite happy they have dog-related jobs.
The show is very funny. It's very clever. It's very smart, But it's the kind of, you know how Einstein said if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it?
Right.
Well, let me tell you something. Bluey understands things. It explains things simply. You know, you can tell that they have a very high emotional intelligence. They're very good at communicating their ideas, whether or not they all land for you or not. And like you said, whether or not the kids are picking up on them.
Right.
I think by creating this space where you can put on, like you can put Bluey on for your kids and breathe a sigh of relief. Like
Right.
there's nothing crazy's going to happen. There's not going to be any weird things that you have to explain that kids, you know, and look, eventually you got to explain stuff to your kids. I get it. But we're, you know, it's a culture where the range of childhood is just shrinking and shrinking and shrinking with the rise of social media and people being so plugged in and all this agenda-driven content that's out there. Whether you agree with the agenda or not, don't get me wrong.
No,
you
well,
know?
it's
still what it is.
There's still a lot of messaging and a lot of preaching in modern shows. The use of social media and smartphones is ridiculous. You kids shouldn't be in 5th grade with a smartphone. There's no need for that.
Exactly.
And I work in a middle school, and I can tell you firsthand the damage it does to these kids. It is not helpful. It is not cool. It is not fun for a kid to be a mini-me version of their parent. That is not how it should be. You know, they're losing out on so much of that formative stuff. And like, to see something like Bluey where it's just like, you know, the kids can watch it, you know they're going to receive, for the most part, a pretty good moral lesson. And a lot of it is about just take your time, be patient, have fun while you still can. It's like you don't...
Be patient, be present, you know, like kind of be at peace.
Be calm.
One of the things, too, is like I like that it kind of shows kids, because everything is so hyperactive today with video games being online, like some toys. You know,
look at their content. It's usually like 5 seconds, 5 seconds, 5 seconds.
And what Bluey does is shows kids, like, you could play like 4 different games using the same pile of rocks in a park.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It shows kids that, like, hey, don't lose sight of... Then that's really what being a kid is. It's using your imagination for creative play.
Exactly.
And that's really something Bluey drives home.
The incorporation of nature is quite nice, too. Like, you know, you got to be outside. You know, if you can be outside kind of stuff. And
You know, and actually, you know, one of the things that I'm grateful for, just on a personal note, for Bluey, there's an episode, I think it's called Sleepy Time, where they use Gustav Holst's Jupiter is like the main theme throughout it. And my kids fell in love with it. Like Diana was playing it on the piano and loved it. And actually it was funny because we went to the symphony, and Jupiter was actually also the name of another piece, but they thought it was going to be the Holst piece, and it wasn't. And they kept leaning. I was like, when are they going to play Jupiter? I was like, oh, it's not that Jupiter. It's the other one. I'm sorry.
It's the other Jupiter.
Yeah, it's the other Jupiter, which is, was it not Beethoven's last piece? I think, no, not Mozart's last piece, because he died during the Requiem. So it might be Beethoven's last piece is called Jupiter.
Okay.
Yeah, but anyway, that was the way they were playing. I know, I should look that up. But anyway, though, but they fell in love with that music.
Nice.
Too. And so, like, when I was saying how sometimes it's not about the lesson, sometimes it's about the feeling.
Yeah.
Watch Sleepy Time. It's on YouTube right now. We'll wait. All right, welcome back. You see, wasn't that sweet? You know, and all that one is just the vibe and the music. It's like in like Bluey, not Bluey, excuse me, Bingo having like a 2001 Space Odyssey for kids. You know, it's you know, it's great.
That's
like
phenomenal.
Again, no lesson there. It's just like like the vibe. There's another one too, like where Bluey's just playing in the rain. That's it. There's no lesson.
That's
There's
sweet.
no moral.
I will love that one, because I loved playing in the rain.
Yeah, and it's pure instrumental, and she's just trying to block off like the water path. And
I can understand exactly the type of fun they would have in that show with rain.
Exactly, just normal stuff kids do, and it's so funny because Chili's trying to clean the vestibule, and then Bluey comes running in covered in mud, and she's got to clean it again. You know, and you know. So again, no real lesson there. It's just a vibe. You just watch it, and you just feel good. You know, going back to classical music, right? We evolved what was called a listening culture, right? Where you would go and you'd listen, right? And for animated stuff, for cinema, for TV, I don't think we ever really established what a watching culture meant. And I don't think we ever really will. But I do think something as complex as 2001: A Space Odyssey and Bluey, that's how great Bluey is. I'm comparing it to Kubrick's masterpiece. That's probably the pinnacle of what a watching culture could be for this kind of art. You know, I might be over my skis on that one, but it makes sense to me.
Fair enough. Yeah, no, I really like it. I mean, like I said, I'll keep watching. I'll put on an episode here or there, probably at work, so that way I have an excuse for it. Otherwise, it's just a grown man staying at home watching Bluey by himself, which I'm not opposed to doing, to be honest.
I think all grown men should probably watch Bluey. It might actually do them good.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. And like I said, like you said, it's like some parts of it are kind of aspirational. I really just like the healthy family dynamic.
Yeah, and you know what, too? So when you do finish, we'll definitely have to do a follow-up video, because right now I'm glad that you like with the direction it's going, because it only gets better.
Yeah, I'm sure.
You know, and yeah, no, and like I said, it's just so refreshing that you can just put something like that on nowadays, and you're just not going to get bombarded with crap, you know, like like there's not going to, and like I said, it's not didactic. They're not trying to cram anything
they're not preaching
down your throat, you know, and it is refreshing. It is nice, you know. It's kind of like, you know, like back in the day, like old Looney Tunes. Like it was just purely
old
about
Looney Tunes. I don't know.
Well, you know what I mean. Though it was more about the entertainment value. Like they wanted to make something entertaining first, and I think that Bluey keeps that. Like the message is important to Bluey, but it does keep it entertaining first. It keeps its audience in mind. Like, who are we making this show for? And in many ways, they're kind of making it for themselves, and so that's why that's why the passion's there. But if it's a passion project that they actually believe in and they're sincere about, that bleeds through, and you pick up on it as the viewer.
We have this running joke between us that like Bob Seger just wrote music for himself, and then everybody else just kind of happened to like it. You know, so. I don't know. You have any final thoughts on Bluey? It is super hot out here, and I've lost quite a bit of water weight.
All I'll say, why don't you give your final thoughts? I'm going to light up again.
All right. Well, my final thoughts on Bluey are pretty simple. I like it. I will continue watching it. Like I said, I watch a lot of stuff, probably way too much content, as I'm sure fans of the channel have picked up, and very rarely am I ever like enthralled with it. So for them to do like these 9-minute, like they're so short, but they're so complete, and like there's so much, like start here, end here, and even certain episodes pivot halfway through. Like it'll start one way, like a simple beginning, but it ends like the Budgie episode. It starts with Bluey copying Bandit, and then they find an injured bird, and they take the bird to the vet, and the bird dies, and then Bluey kind of like has to process what that's like. And so what starts as kind of like a silly little premise ends up having like a deeper meaning, and I'm surprised when I find those. I like those. I like the characters quite a lot. I mean, Bandit's my favorite, probably followed closely by Bingo.
I love Bingo.
Every time Bingo has to play like I just watched this one where they were pretending to be like a married couple, and so they just put Bingo in a bucket hat with a fake mustache, and Bingo's like, "Sounds great, babe.
That's great, babe.
That's great, babe." Yeah, and I was dying the whole time. Just so funny. So yeah.
Whenever the kids pretend to be, like, whenever they pretend to be boys or to pretend to be Bandit, they always end everything in babe. Yeah. Which is funny because Bandit doesn't actually say babe a lot on the show, but like they just do this exaggerated version of, you know, one of the most touching moments in Bluey, believe it or not, is the Mother's Day episode. And
I don't think I've seen it yet.
They're putting on a play reenacting how Bandit and Chili met. And it was so funny because they're like, "Oh, we met at a party in London," and the kids get really excited. So it's a big tea party with the Queen, and Chili says, "I don't remember the Queen being there," and Bandit goes, "You wouldn't." But then
implying the mom was a little sus.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but then there's a part where Chili is in the play. She's pregnant, so Bingo has a balloon under her belly, and the balloon pops. And the kids look shocked, and Bandit reaches over and grabs Chili's hand. So you have a lot of fans saying that, like, Bandit and Chili might have had a miscarriage before they had
that's deep.
Bluey. I know. The first time I ever saw it, I was very struck by Bandit grabbing her hand, because that's immediately, you can't help but think that. You go, "Oh my goodness." You know?
Oh God.
Yeah, no, it was surprisingly
that's
profound.
what it sounds like.
Yeah.
It sounds like maybe that's,
I mean, like, the show didn't do that, and that's the other thing.
It's not an accident.
My good friend Ryan Luis Rodriguez is always quick to point out one of the reasons he loves animated features is because every single thing you see on the screen is a choice that a person had to make.
Correct.
You know, like nothing happens by accident in animation, and that's so
true.
I know, and it's so good. It's one of the reasons I love that show. It's one of the reasons I love talking about cartoons with Ryan.
One of the reasons, yeah, I love cartoons in general.
Yeah, yes, exactly. Like, it's a very, very good art form. Because of all those choices, you have complete control of the medium.
You know what I just realized?
What is this?
Oh, do your final thoughts on Bluey, but I just realized something.
Okay, well, okay, I'll just wrap up my final thoughts on Bluey. I'm grateful that there's a show like this. I love that my kids love it so much. I love it so much. Everyone every dad I've talked to loves it. Every mom I've talked to loves it.
Everybody I know likes it.
You talk to, and to have something that makes such a positive cultural impact, that's rare.
Amazing, man.
It's a rare, special thing, and we really need to treasure it. And we need to understand why we treasure it too. So
that's important.
That like, there's a reason everyone loves it right now, and I would hate to see those things.
We don't like it because it's popular. It's popular because we like it.
Yes,
kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, not to dive back into the whole Disney kerfuffle again, but
it's true.
There are mistakes that could be made.
Yeah.
In Bluey and how it's handled.
Disney doesn't have a good track record for me, and if those contracts are up, and it is pause for concern, not for nothing. Disney's earned this reputation.
They have.
It doesn't come out of nowhere.
They have.
So yeah, my review of Bluey thus far, it is as refreshing as an ice cold high life on a hot summer's day. But the thing that we forgot to mention, Dylan, I don't think we mentioned what we were smoking today. We started the last video with it.
Right, we didn't.
I am having a Rocky Patel Connecticut, which I think just goes so well with High Life. Like, honestly, these are my flavors of summer. If this was also a cargo, like, that would also be my flavors of summer. So yes, I'm having Rocky Patel Connecticut to go with my High Life.
Well, as viewers of the last Decadent video will know, I love pipes carved by the Italian carver Tiano Iacono. And this pipe here is just a wonderful sitter, and I have it full of H.H. McBaron's Old Dark Flake, which is a dark-fired Kentucky tobacco, very smoky, very rich. And one of the reasons I'm smoking is because I want to tell you, dear viewers, that McBaron was recently bought out by the Scandinavian Tobacco Group. And there's a fear that the quality of their tobaccos may dip. The HH in it, oh my goodness, all my pipe friends are going to hate me for not remembering his name. It's like Henrik was his name. So the guy who actually owned McBaron, he's the HH.
Okay.
And so this was one of his favorite blends. And when he ran McBaron, he was able to buy whatever tobacco he wanted, whenever he wanted, age it for as long as he wanted. He didn't have any pencil pushers telling him what to do because he ran the show.
He ran the show.
But now he's dead, and now they sold the company. So if there's HH blends out there that you like, start buying them up now, as my good friend Brian Levine of the Pipes Magazine radio show. You might have found this channel through his shout out. Thank you, Brian. Buy, like Brian always says, if you find tobacco you like, buy a lot of it and buy it now, because it's going to be the best it is now. It's going to be the cheapest it is now. You know,
most readily available as well.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm probably going to go onto smokingpipes.com and buy another like pound of it if I can, or at least another tin, and maybe cellar it away for a bit. This one's been lasting me for a long time. But
that's good.
So that's what I'm smoking. I'm also having a High Life because I didn't feel like having a fizzy water. Right, I like High Life.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I like High Life so much that you'll notice mine is empty. So if you don't mind, I'm going to end this video so I can go get another ice cold one while I enjoy. I'll finish this and probably have a second cigar on the deck. So
now that's a great plan.
It is a good plan.
All right.
So anyways, thanks for watching. Go watch Bluey. And,
go watch Bluey. 100%.
Let us know if you are also afraid of Disney getting their claws into it, because I feel it's a conversation worth having.
Yeah, I think it's the next step, because everyone's worried about what's going to hapen.
It's worth
now,
having.
If you're watching this video like 7 years into the future and Bluey's fine, thank God. Leave that comment. Yeah. Let us in the past know.
We'll find a way. Anyways, hey, thanks for watching.
Take care, everyone.